Hi, my name is Josie, and welcome to the second episode of the Mental Health Therapist Hub podcast, a podcast for new therapists by a gal who's been there and teaches new therapists every week. In this second episode, I really want to dig into why I'm creating this podcast. I used the last podcast to tell my story, to tell my why of doing the work and how that's inspired me in becoming a helper. If you haven't listened to it, I would go back and recommend listening to it. But at the beginning of that episode, I said I was going to talk about why this podcast, but I didn't want to make it too long. So I am recording this second one to make sure that I hit on that. So I became a therapist in 2020 of the pandemic. I started my postmasters and my MFT literally in September 2020. So the world was trying to figure out how to function, how to be, how to sit with folks, how to hold space with folks, how to just operate. And it was a very difficult time to learn to be a therapist because the agency where I was training had a wait list through the roof. So many people who were wanting therapy. And there was so much that I didn't know. And I just had to jump in and try and do the thing and see what happened. And I was so scared. And so if there are any new therapists listening, I just want to let you know that it's really okay to be scared out of your mind. It shows that you care and that you really want to do good work. My recommendation would be to not psych yourself out. But let me not get ahead of myself. Purpose of the podcast. I, in that time, did not find resources or people who were talking about the experience of being a new therapist. So outside of those who were going through it with me and my supervisors, it began to feel a little isolating, especially being at home in lockdown, which I know in many ways is such a privilege. Let me make sure I say that out loud. But it did get a little lonely. It actually got very lonely at times where I felt like I'm not really connecting with folks in person, which at the time was a huge thing for me, was connecting with people in person. And I felt like I was questioning everything. Am I doing this right? Am I saying this the right way? Am I talking like a therapist? Am I doing all of the things the way the other therapists were doing it? Was I good enough? Am I worth people's time? Which is a question that I really had to grapple with throughout my career. And it was something that I really wish I could have heard someone speak about so vulnerably and share that I wasn't crazy for having those thoughts, having those fears, having those worries. So in doing that, I really pushed myself really hard when I first started. I wanted to learn everything, every possible thing that came along with being a therapist. I wanted to be a person who didn't just say like, oh yeah, I'm a great therapist, come and see me, but be able to be a person that therapists coming after me would be able to look at my story and my experiences and be able to see themselves. So starting this podcast, starting the second company, starting the website and the resources and the templates, which I'll get to later on in this episode, I want to be able to make sure that this resource truly serves the communities that need it. For that other brand new Black female social worker who's jumping into therapy for the first time. Like, I really want to create a sense of normalcy to trying to figure out being a therapist in such an uncertain world. So that is why, the biggest why of starting the podcast. And my hope is that along with solving the loneliness that can come with being a therapist, I also really want to solve the problem of resources. Whoever is going to hear this and feel shaded about it, I'm sorry, I don't know how to help you. But therapy is an expensive field to be in. Like, we go through graduate school, right? However much, if you're going to a public school, going to a private school, it's still a higher institution of learning, and it's expensive. I went to a private school, so even though, yeah, I had scholarships and things that helped, it's still an expensive degree. And doing a postmaster's, fortunately, I got scholarships for that as well, but that still wasn't cheap as a working student. And so I am really getting to a point where I'm wanting resources to be accessible. Like, let's get all the things that new therapists need in one place, one shop, everything being as inexpensive as possible. Templates being $3, $4, $5, $10, depending on what it is. Having a free podcast, having bonus episodes that make up an online course. All the things that I plan on doing with this platform. I really want to make sure that this is a point of access rather than another thing that requires another big financial investment and another big barrier and another big mountain to climb to be able to become a better therapist. Like, I just don't want that to be the experience. I want folks to be able to learn from me, from those who eventually will be on this podcast, be in this circle, be in this community, and be able to really help access be at the center of supporting new therapists. Because if you really think about it, on top of school, you then have to work and do licensure hours. And I hate to break it to folks, but starting salaries for new therapists are not very high. Even in the best case scenarios, they're not very high. They're not like tech high by any stretch, but they can cover the basic needs, basic necessities. And it means that if we want to do extra things or be able to thrive or be able to have some of these other luxuries, it means that we're either working other jobs or we're making sacrifices and doing all those things. And I really don't want this to be a platform where folks have to sacrifice significantly to be able to have access to it. Of course, there needs to be an investment. When we invest our time and our money into something, it means that we care about it and we're going to give our best effort to it. So I'm not saying everything on here is going to be free. This podcast, of course, is going to be free, but not everything on here is going to be free. There's going to be some pieces that are paid in order to make that investment in yourself. But I don't want that investment to break the... Also, this podcast was pretty meant to be, because this microphone that I'm using is my husband's microphone. This set of headphones I'm using, my husband's set of headphones. He just had it all sitting in his stuff. And when I told him, hey, I think I'm going to start a podcast. I need to buy a mic. I need to get headphones. I need to get all these things. He's like, just use mine. So the fact that it was just sitting there waiting for me kind of lets me know that maybe this wasn't something that was just by accident. It feels so intentional and so timely, and it felt like just the right time and the right resources came. So it's nice that I don't have to buy a mic and a set of headphones, and I'm able to use a great resource like Riverside FM, which I'm recording on, and I'm able to do it after my babies fall asleep and be able to just have the time with myself. It just feels very, very aligned with what I want to be doing in this current season. So starting with the supports that I have amazing supervisors and amazing mentors. They truly are a gift. And I know that's not everybody's experience, but I can truly say that like 95% of my supervision or mentorship experience is probably higher than that, have been phenomenal or were phenomenal. And they made me who I am by making the time to listen to my worries, making the time to listen to my struggles and my concerns, making time to help me be better, watching my recordings, giving me feedback, reading my notes, letting me know I need to catch up on my notes and not fall behind on my notes. Really just being intentional about leaning in and making sure that I'm okay. And supervision and mentorship are two very different things. My supervisors were the ones that were doing kind of like I was just saying. They were the ones that were just monitoring, and I was using their license to practice, which is a real gift that supervisors give to supervisees. They don't have to do that once they get licensed. They choose to do that. So that's a piece that I really feel grateful that the expert therapists that supervised me were willing to let me use their license to practice. So that's the support that I had. The support that I wish that I had, and I spoke about this a little bit in the last episode, is I wish that there was space to be vulnerable and speak through the worries that we have as new therapists, the things that we are expected to know, the things that we are expected to be able to do walking in, whether you're walking into practicum at a counseling program or you're like me and you don't do any sessions in your social work program and your first session is after you've completed all of your social work classes. It shouldn't be a barrier to talk through what we don't know, especially if we're keeping HIPAA in mind, if we're protecting patient health information. Sharing our own experiences is something that can really undo a sense of aloneness. And that's something that outside of my supervision and mentorship, I really didn't have. And I think a reason why I didn't have that was for a couple of reasons. One was because I am in Colorado, and if you know anything about Colorado, the population of people who look like me in the mental health field in Colorado it's a pretty small group of people, and I didn't know any back then. So I felt like I need to name the things that, like, okay, this system needs to change, and name in this system changing, this is how I am seeing things, this is how I'm experiencing things. I'm not gonna be a token child. Which, when I was interviewing for my MFT program, fun fact, I did say that in the interview, and I was like, I'm not getting in. So it's funny that I got in now. But I didn't really go in with vulnerability with my classmates, not that much. And it's something that I wish I did. And I hope that having this podcast and having this platform and whatever this turns into, honestly, I hope that it encourages new therapists to get into conversation with one another about what's really going on, what's worrying you, what you're nervous about, what you're excited about, so that we don't experience this sense of aloneness when we're in the field, when we are unsure of ourselves. I hope it really creates space for us to just openly be in community with one another, especially with our peers. Because as we are learning about, okay, we have to have a niche, and there's a bunch of people who are going into private practice and they're making their stuff, and I have to make my stuff be able to attract clients. There can unfortunately be this air of competition that's in the air. And my hope is that this podcast can dispel that and can really show that there are enough clients to go around, y'all. There really are. We don't have to sit here being tit for tat for clients. If the client is for you, the client is for you. If it ain't for you, they ain't for you. And that's fine. Refer, help other people win, and they'll help you win. I want to be able to really just scream that from the mountaintops so that we get out of this capitalistic, individualistic mindset that's thinking of, well, if I don't get, then I'm going to fail. And just this place of scarcity, because my career has literally shown me the opposite. It has shown me that when I referred, when I've leaned in, when I've built community, when I've sought mentorship, when I've gotten supervision, it made me and my practice better. So I know this is slightly shorter, but I wanted to make sure that I named the purpose. So again, my name is Josie, and this is the Mental Health Therapist Hub. That's for new therapists, and is created by a gal who's been there and teaches new therapists every week. Thanks for listening.